Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the For the Win podcast, the Xbox, the official For the Win Xbox podcast. We're no longer just a general gaming podcast. We are an Xbox podcast. If you watched last week's episode, we actually just talked about how to move the podcast forward. And so today is our first official episode of talking all things Xbox. But before we get into it, if you don't know, now you know, I'm joined by John, my brother, Henry, our local flamethrower artisan, and basically every week you can count on us to bring you the nitty-gritty and in the trenches information and discussions around what's happening in the Xbox world. So no longer are we going to talk about nonsense happening with PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Steam, blah, 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 blah. There's only one console that matters. There's only one platform that matters, and that's the Xbox. And that's what we're here to talk about. Between the three of us, we have 60 years on the Xbox platform. And so we decided, you know what? This is what we want to talk about. And so if you're an Xbox person, don't go to the other Xbox podcasts. Go here, okay? If you go to the official Xbox podcast, they're just going to try and sell you a bunch of games. I watched an episode today. The first 5 minutes are boring introductions. The next 20 minutes are what are we playing, which is basically just pitches for new games that they want people to check out. And then the rest is just boring, blah, 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 blah. We're going to talk about the hard-hitting Xbox news and Xbox things here. So, with that being said, tonight we're going to be talking about the Xbox community and how it's just a bit in shambles with all the exclusives drama and all the games going to different platforms and all that stuff. We're also going to talk about the quadruple A games that have flopped this month and what that means for live service in Xbox. And then the last thing we're going to touch on is the future of Xbox hardware. The diskless future, maybe, and what that means for us. Do we love that? Do we hate that? Phil said that we're going to do what customers want. Well, I don't know. What do customers want right now? We're going to get into all that and more on For the Win. But before we do, I just want to share just a brief message from our sponsor. For all your flamethrower needs. I don't have an ad read in front of me, but check out superscorcher.com. There's no sense going to eBay and trying to get a $1,200 flamethrower when you could get a fully customized replica of the boring flamethrower by Elon Musk, but it's not some knockoff or cheap thing. This is the real deal. Almost a exact 1-for-1. You can see we got ours customized here. Flamethrower. This thing is freaking incredible. I love it. I tell all my friends, hey, do you want to shoot a flamethrower? And they all go, yeah. And it's the best. And so go check out their website, superscorcher.com, and you can get one for, $500. You can use code. What's the code?
The code's going to be Pyro10.
Pyro10.
That gets you 10% off.
For 10% off. These things are awesome. I love shooting this off. It feels good. It is not a 3D printed piece of crap. This is a solid, sturdy, this is the real deal. And so if you want a real deal torch, go with a real deal company, which is superscorcher.com. Is that okay, Henry?
Yeah, that's fine.
Psh, 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 psh. These things are awesome.
I'm still waiting for the kid variant. Light
mini
enough
Scorcher?
for a 5-year-old.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
Yeah.
The mini Scorcher.
Yeah. Flamethrowers for
I can
kids.
make it happen. I can make it happen. You just gotta convince Bethany to let
let the kids
let
get
it beta tested.
Just make one of those grill lighters, and just put a case on it.
Oof, oof. Oh, all right. Well, let's get into it. The Xbox community is a bit in shambles right now with there was a big, I don't know if you guys saw the kind of freak out a little bit on X of people getting rid of their consoles, and there's just so much drama that official Xbox actually dropped a podcast or like an announcement. They dropped it on the official Xbox podcast, and they talked about the future of the business and clarified all these things that we kind of already knew. But how do we feel about these recent turn of events as far as exclusives, Xbox exclusives going to other platforms, and this gamble? Well, do we think this will pay off?
People overreacted, right? Like,
for sure.
People completely overreacted, and also like this was something that they have been building up towards, and they've been pretty public with them kind of building up towards it. Like they had Xbox Game Pass available on Samsung TVs. I think I talked about it like last week too. They mentioned there was like this little like Fire Stick type of Xbox that was going to be all through the cloud. That was like a prototype, and it never came out, but like it was supposed to happen, and they were very public about that. So this is just that evolved, and it's, you know, when we think about stuff like PC gaming, right? It's PC is a completely open platform, and I feel like that they see that as the move, because they've said it, and they even said it in that Xbox documentary that came out a couple years ago. The Xbox business has never been profitable, and console business is just not profitable. It's always been about the games, and so they're just cutting out the middleman at this point. They realize that it's going to be really, after 20 years trying to make the Xbox the primary platform, isn't going to do it, because you can have the most powerful hardware, but people care about the games. The games are what people want played on a game console. And so utilizing software and spreading out the load onto other platforms, that's still money in the Microsoft pocket. What, right? Like, you know, Sea of Thieves is going on to the PlayStation, but it's going to boot up also with an Xbox brand on it, right?
That's so weird.
To me, it just makes complete sense. Like, because like like Microsoft and the Xbox brand is still making money. Now they're making money off of a PlayStation sale and Xbox sales. So like, why would you limit your business? That's the mindset. Why are we limiting ourselves and our software? We are one of the largest software companies in the world, and we're buying all these other software companies to continue being the biggest software company in the world. Why are we going to make it on our boxes that we lose money on every unit because there's no profit margin on an Xbox? It costs them nothing to put it on somebody else's box that Sony loses money selling.
Right.
It's good business sense.
You make a sound argument.
There is the case though for, you know, asking the question, if the roles were flipped, if Xbox was outselling the PS5 3-1, would Microsoft still be wanting to do that? Because while yes, they will make money from selling on the PSN store or Nintendo Switch's Nintendo store, whatever that's called, I don't even know. But the reality is they make more selling on the Microsoft platform than on a third party. So, I mean, the dream scenario is that everyone would be on an Xbox platform. They could sell directly and they would make more money, because all those other platforms are going to be taking their 30%. And so, you know, that's 30% less than if they made the same sale on the Xbox platform. So I think what they're trying to do is, I mean, for one, the games that are going, the four that they said, Penitent, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, and The fourth one was
the,
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi, yeah.
None of those like are console sellers. Like, well, yes, great, they were exclusives. Like, nobody bought a Series S or Series X for
Correct.
Sea of Thieves or Penitent or any of those.
Yeah.
So for those to go to other platforms, like, yeah, go for it. Like, means nothing to me, anyways. But if there were ever a time where a console seller like a Halo or a Gears of War was going to these other platforms, that would be like a major red flag to me, because that seems more like desperation mode. And
I could see it.
What's the point of, you'll never sell like another Xbox again if you put like Gears of War and Halo on PlayStation 5.
I think there would be an argument for a timed release in that kind of aspect, right? It'd be exclusive to the console, like, and then a year or so later, gets on the other platforms. I could see that happening.
But I mean, I still don't think you would even sell Xboxes, because games don't even work their first year of release. So anyone that's on PlayStation wanting Halo, the next Halo, it's like, yeah, I'll just wait a year and then it'll actually be working by the time it comes to PlayStation 5. Let the Xbox fanboys deal with the broken game the first year.
If PlayStation ever gets Halo, that'll be really interesting. Something come around full circle, because Halo 1 was originally going to be on the PlayStation 2. It's really weird to think about that, because a lot of people feel like it went from Mac to Xbox. So it was like Mac PS2, and then it got shipped over to Xbox. So that'll be a weird full circle moment if that time comes.
Yeah, and I think the point that like bums me out about it is we don't see it reciprocated very often by the other two, by Sony and Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
We saw like Death Stranding come to like PC Game Pass, which is still like the Xbox platform, but like not on the Xbox console. And like it'll be a cold day in hell before any Nintendo first party game like goes to
correct
to an Xbox. So it's just kind of like, I mean, yeah, like, I don't know.
I think that, like I said, I think they've been warming this up, because like Microsoft has owned Minecraft now for like what, 7-8 years now, almost.
True.
And it's still being put on every other platform with crossplay. So like that was the kickoff for this whole thing. We just didn't realize it,
Yeah.
And I don't know, Nintendo is starting to like warm up more and more. It's really, really weird. Like Ubisoft develops like certain Mario games and stuff now. And that's a completely third-party company, not like when they had like HAL or Camelot or whoever makes some Mario games. So now it might happen. I welcome it. I would love for there to be a world where console gaming is just like PC gaming, where if it fits the hardware, you can play it, right? Or I think of it more like DVDs. Like you go to the store, you buy a game, disc goes in, it's going to run. And that's ideally that's how it should just be, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So would you be okay if there were no Xbox exclusives anymore, but Sony and Nintendo still had their exclusives?
I mean, it would be lame, because the whole industry hasn't, moved to that. But I'm saying I would appreciate if the whole industry did move to like a giant open platform sort of thing. And it's kind of really interesting when you think about like from a hardware perspective, how like the main two consoles are like beat for beat, the last two generations almost identical, and that's how come we have nearly identical ports between the two of them. So like, we've talked about before where it's like the only thing that was a deciding fact for which console you got really was the exclusives.
Games. Yeah.
And I would feel like it'd be great if that just didn't matter anymore. If does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think also though there's the different networks, Xbox Live versus PSN.
Switch
controllers
online.
You can connect. You should be able to connect between consoles and things like that. But
yeah, and there's the ecosystems and how all that stuff works together. I think my Xbox Live, I had a PS4, and my online experience from Xbox over the years versus my online experience with PlayStation was pretty different.
I agree.
So,
I cannot stand PlayStation's online service.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot more for the community that Xbox has fostered over the last 20 years or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think we'd be silly to not recognize, yep, it's a good business decision. They can take a game, milk it for all it's worth, literally every last dime out of it, and then be like, okay, here you go. And then boom, get more. Literally, it all costs them nothing. Here you go. Here's tons more value out of it, and it boosts the game. And developers win. Let's be real, developers, especially indie developers.
I think it's a win for developers. It's a win for the consumers. Imagine not having to deal with exclusives, because it's nice when we get an exclusive. It's nice when we're part of the fun club, but when we're left out of the fun club, it sucks, right? And so imagine that's a win all around if the whole industry were to move towards something like that. How feasible it is, I don't know. You'd have to pay a lot more attention to what kind of hardware you have, kind of like with the PC. But even then,
Yeah. There's a 2008 hardcore Xbox fanboy inside of me that just screams, I never want Halo to be anywhere else but Xbox. And I love my Xbox exclusives, but
I don't even like that it's on PC.
No, of course not. We grew up in an era with the greatest Xbox exclusives. I mean, it was when it was banging. Right now, I couldn't tell you one Series X Xbox exclusive that I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I have a Series X. Most of what I play is on other platforms. And so this whole freak out, when I saw it all happening and unfolding online, I was like, okay, I can't even think of an Xbox exclusive that I'm freaking out. What are we even talking about? Because right now the best games on the platform are not really exclusives.
And, we think about how many studios does Microsoft actually own where they are still actually making games that end up on other platforms? It's been happening.
Right.
Not big AAA stuff but think about the whole entire thing with Activision, right? They bought Activision now, and it would not make sense. Just like we discussed months ago, it wouldn't make sense for them financially to actually make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive. And I feel like that just blooms out to literally everything. It doesn't make good financial sense.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what just kind of makes it all kind of sting just a little bit more, is just the reality that there hasn't been any good Xbox exclusives in a long time. At least nothing to really write home about. When PlayStation
even so many of them are still, they're at least on PC too, because that's Microsoft's kind of other platform. They have Windows, and so it's really been hard for, I feel like, Microsoft to be like, well, why would we put it just on our console? Right? It's been that way for
Sony is starting to see that and trying to do that. They just haven't been able to execute it. Some of their PlayStation games that they put on PC, the ports have not been good and have not worked and things like that. But and they have like the Uncharted series, Last of Us, God of War, Demon's Soul, like all of these games, and we're just kind of like the Spider-Mans and things, and we're just kind of sitting over here with our Xboxes like, okay, our most famous game, popular game, Halo, is like a live service game that sucks now, and that's all we have to show for it. All the biggest games on Xbox are, Fortnite and Call of Duty, and that's it. Minecraft.
Pal World.
But Pal World now. Oh yeah, well yeah, and they got Helldivers too. That's also on PC, but it's just like another one.
Yeah, the future rages on. It's going to be interesting. I think Microsoft is making very good forward-thinking moves to sum it all up. And could things be better for Xbox players? Sure. Have we had I would say one of the best current gen years in a while? Yeah. But I don't think that's because of Xbox exclusives. I think that's because some game developers have made some killer games this year, and they luckily are on Xbox. But some games that have not been killer, there's a couple AAA and even a quadruple A title that has absolutely flopped. So let's shift gears here a little bit and talk about these new games and these live service games. And Skull and Bones, $70. It debuted at 30 on Xbox most played games chart and is now dropped to 37 after 2 weeks. Now, so by all like metrics, it's a failure. And the what was it? The CEO of or president of Ubisoft, he said that it would be a quadruple A title, and it has absolutely face planted. And what's interesting though is they said, quote, Skull and Bones has achieved record player engagement with over 4 hours of average daily playtime, the second highest ever at Ubisoft. And so I have beef with that because it's literally like grabbing a metric just out of your butt that happens to like be a diamond and make it like there is a massive pile of crap, and in that pile of crap is like, it's not even real though. I can't even equate it to a diamond because it's not even a good.
It's media spinning. He's spinning
metric.
it. He's trying to. It's how can we make this sound
totally
good?
It's a complete spin on the truth, and it's just taking like an absolute dumpster fire and saying like,
I don't think it's that bad, right? Because he's saying what he's really is saying. He's saying the people that play it, they like it, and the point is to make other people go, well,
no,
that's that's the goal.
The people that play it fell asleep and left their console on, and that's why the time is so high.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
But I was just going to say, Skull and Bones, like, I've been following this game, like, it's been in development for just years and years. I think 6-7 years or something like that. Because I played Assassin's Creed Black Flag and loved that game. Like, loved the pirate story, the theme, the ships, the sea shanties, and like upgrading your ship, and just literally like sailing around the Caribbean and going to Jamaica and Cuba and all of these different places. And like, it was the best. It was like super, super fun. And when they announced Skull and Bones as more of like a honed in, story driven, single player pirate video game, I was like stoked. I was like so excited for it. Just like because the Assassin's Creed game, well, yeah, it had like this element of pirate stuff. There's still like quite a bit of like Assassin's Creed ish stuff in the game. So you would have to go on land and do the sneaking and all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't as much as like previous Assassin's Creeds, but so yeah, like that's what it was like originally pitched as, and like seemed awesome and would be really cool. And then just over the course of development hell, it turned into a $70 live service game with graphics comparable to Sea of Thieves, and just not not what people wanted or were expecting. So I think it's very like average to middle of the road. I think some people are finding some fun with it. But I mean, they have a Ubisoft employee that said, he said, I think we all know this is just like a $30 to $40 game at best, but it's not in our control to determine those things. And like, I think that says it all,
true.
like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, right before that, we had Suicide Squad, which was a failure, complete failure.
That game didn't even work. That's the thing with Suicide Squad. I think that like really hampered the people playing it. The fact that it didn't work at all for a lot of people. I checked on it earlier. There's 451 people playing on Steam.
Jeez. And I like these companies gotta learn that. Like they're gonna learn one way or another. People are gonna start wising up. I gotta believe. I mean, I wised up 10 years ago when the Master Chief Collection dropped. That was my wake up call for current gen gaming. Of like, oh, they can do this. This is allowed now, where they can ship a broken game that I paid full price for and bought an Xbox for. That was my reality check. But a lot of people still are slow to catch up to this, and I really hope that like Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, and just every month there's a new one, it feels like, will wake people up to, hey, don't buy this game. Wait. Just wait a month. Like, just wait and see, like, read a couple reviews, hear what people are saying, because I can't tell you how many games I've genuinely been hyped for and been like so close to pulling the trigger on. And then I was just like, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait like a couple weeks and just see how the release goes, because I have release PTSD, and I'm like, I don't know how this will go. And sure enough, it's just like, boom, it bombs and it's bad or it doesn't work. And I'm like, thank God I didn't spend the money.
Right.
Like, thank God.
Yeah. And I mean, for Suicide Squad, like, it sucks because the developers, Rocksteady, they had built up like such a good reputation from all of the Batman games that they did before it, the Arkham Asylum, City, all of those, which were like phenomenal, like single player Batman experiences, and were very well received and very popular. And then to now, for whatever reason, whoever was the decision maker to make it like this live service game, like it just hurt the developers, it's hurt the game. Like they're literally like time locking the story content over like the course of a year. So like as new content drops, like you're not going to get the complete story until like 13 months after launch is like their plan for the story. And it's like, what are we doing?
I hate this
like,
drip feed bull crap that they try to do.
Oh man, that is awful. And then you have like, and I love the space we're in is so crazy right now, because you have this extreme, and then you have the Pal Worlds, right? And the Helldivers. And I'm not going to lie, there's been a little bit of FOMO for Helldivers as an Xbox guy. Like, I've been like, oh, it looks interesting. And like, if it was on Game Pass, I 1,000% would be in it and playing it and trying it out. And
man,
so,
wouldn't it be nice if the industry just moved to an open platform that everything was just on?
But
Wow.
that's so good. It's good to see that the market is still, as always, the market's being honest, right? And Helldivers finding amazing success as a $30 game. Palworld finding record-breaking success as a $30 game, right? The market is still speaking, and I know sometimes it feels like we're just trapped in this crap hole of these massive companies just taking a dump on us, making us pay $70 for garbage that doesn't work. But the market is like, it is speaking for itself, and people are putting their money where their mouth is. And I do love that. So I do think there's going to be a change. It might take a while, but Palworld, Helldivers, Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad has taught us anything in these last few months. It's that. Like, people are saying what they want. And did you guys hear about Helldivers? How not to go too long on a tangent, but they aren't even adding in a PvP mode because the developers are like, no, we want to keep the game really fun, not even super competitive, and keep the community strong and playing with each other. Isn't it? I'm like, that is a developer who's like tapped into what people are wanting right now. Gamers.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll see a trend in fewer live service games. I mean, the reality is all of these publishers, developers, they all want to be like the Fortnite.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
they all want everyone playing their game all the time, constantly, and you just can't, not everyone can have that.
Right.
So in order to like dethrone a Fortnite, so many things have to like line up perfectly for someone to do that. So I think Fortnite got like close to being dethroned, but like it came like storming back.
Yep.
But like you literally have to have like an amazing game, amazing support. It has to work flawlessly. And like I think the big thing is like people have to be like sick of Fortnite.
Yeah.
You know, it has to land at a time where people are just sick of like their usual games. But then I think what happens is a new game comes out, they play it, it's fun. As soon as it starts to get stale, they go back to their old one because it's like, I've already invested so much time into it. I'm just going to go back and play the old faithful, what I'm comfortable with. So,
yeah. And you're exactly right. And this is the comparison I thought of is Fortnite is the Mr. Beast of the gaming world. And what you have is all of these companies trying to, like you said, be the next Fortnite, when the reality is Fortnite has what is it, 2016? They have like an 8-year leap, a head start on all of these games, and all these YouTubers in the same way try and do the Mr. Beast thing. It's like, you're never going to be that. Why? Because he has 8 years, or no, I mean, in his case, it's like 15 years or whatever of experience, of like building, of funding, of all this stuff. And so like, don't do that. Just make your game awesome and let it rip. Don't try and do that. But you're 100% right. They're all trying to do that. And what you get is like these knockoff Fortnites, these knockoff live services, and they can't do live service. And they can't, like, unless they have ridiculous funding, they're not going to be able to weather the storm. Because that's the thing. Like, Fortnite caught it very early on, and they were able to build on it. But now the expectation out of the jump is a Fortnite type live service. And you're not like, hey, 343 learned the hard way, dude. They learned the hard way that, we can't just be a live service. There's so much more to it than just dropping updates. It is, you are like keeping the whole game afloat, the fan base happy. There's like, it's content like no one's business. So yeah, I think there should only be like one Golden State Warriors, one like New York Yankees. Like, let them do their thing. I'm okay with a few live service, but the rest of us, like, know your lane. It's okay to just be a good game and drop a DLC. Look at Elden Ring model. I think most games should go like the Elden Ring model. It's like, we're going to make a sick game and we'll drop DLC. Like, that's a whole nother game on top of the other one if you want to play that.
Bring expansion packs back.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Because the reality is like we can't all play everything all the time, and it's like you stop playing one of these live service games for a couple weeks and then you're behind and you have to do all this work to like try and catch up. And it's just, I think people are finally getting to a point where they're just tired of like having gaming instead of just being like a fun hobby and an escape. Like they're tired of it being a job and having a list of chores to do.
That's how come I can never get into MMOs, dude. I can never get into an MMO because it always just felt like a chore. And so whenever a game started feeling like work, I would just move on.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why Helldivers 2 is seeing all its success, because you can log in, play 2 or 3 10-15 minute games, log out, and like you're not like missing anything by not playing,
Yeah.
So we heard, I think it was like in November last year, that Sony had 12 live service games planned for the next couple of years, and they were cutting it down to 6. But at one point they had 12 live service games planned.
Jeez. I think that's a good call to cut back on them.
So my thought too is like, what is more stressful for a studio, for like developers? Is it working 2 to 3 years on like a mid-range budget game, like a $30 or $40 game, putting it out, it's good, it sells, they move on to the next project, or like spending years developing a live service game, and then now that's all they can do, and they have to constantly like keep everyone happy and constantly be coming up with new content every few weeks. Like that seems like way more stressful, way more work than just like putting out a game, letting it sell, and then moving on to the next thing. Like,
right.
Whose idea was this? I don't think it was the developers.
Yeah, I would be interested to hear from a developer, because the first thing I thought of was like, well, there is some job security, like in Epic's case. And if you love working on Fortnite, which I'm sure there's a lot of developers who do, it's like that's some great job security when it's live service and you guys have a well-oiled machine, going. But on the flip side, I would imagine working again, to bring it back to Xbox, working at 343 the past few years had to be some special type of hell, because most of your fans are pissed off, not happy. Like you crank out something, you work really hard on something, it's not well received, and then you have to go back and try, so there
you're just like still working on it,
right,
rather than going to the next project.
And it's like I could see how live service could either be like, for developers, like a really positive thing or an absolute hell. I don't really see a middle ground.
It's I'm gonna say it. I would guarantee it is absolute hell, because you are constantly in crunch, because everything has a deadline constantly. And when you are coding things, when you fix one thing, something else always ends up breaking. Like that's how it always is. And that's why testing games used to take so long.
Yeah.
The certification process used to take so long, because you couldn't just push shit to production, and that's just what they do now. And we talk about Power World a bit, like the CEO of like Pocket Pair, that's the company's name, right? Pocket Pair.
Yeah.
Pocket Pair said he was surprised that you could just push code to Steam. There's no certification process. Like, yeah, here it is. He was surprised, and that's how come like there's like there's some discrepancy initially between the Xbox version and the PC version, and why Microsoft said that they're going to help bring down that barrier, because there is a bit of a certification process in comparison to everything else. Because when you push one fix, something else breaks, and so when you're already dealing with deadlines, and then shit's breaking every single time you try to get closer to that deadline. When you're developing things, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back every time, every step of the way. It's a mess, and so I would guarantee it is complete hell. And I would imagine you could go to a room of developers and ask them this question, and 9 out of 10 would echo what I said. And I feel like the only people that at a game company that would want something like live service versus the older model is executives.
Yeah.
Full stop.
No, I just picture every developer working on a live service game like they're Newman from Seinfeld. There's like the famous scene where he works for the U.S. Postal Service. They're like, I think it was Jerry asked him like, "Hey, aren't you the guys that like go into work and go crazy and shoot up the place?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Why is that?" "Because the mail never stops, Jerry. It just keeps coming and coming and coming, and it's like the content never stops. It just keeps coming and coming."
Yeah. And the other part about that is like you're constantly chasing what do the customers want, right? You have like I feel bad for 343. They had all this content cooked up, and then everyone bitched and moaned at the same time. So then you're trying to release stuff while also trying to like
guilty.
And so it's a hell that I don't wish upon anybody.
Sure.
And it's why like I feel bad for my friends that are in the gaming industry, and this is actually like when we were like going to college, John, I was meeting people that worked on games, and they were telling me not to go into the gaming industry because of this. And it's just worse now. I could just imagine. That was like 20 years ago. It's just even worse now. Because back then it was just like, oh yeah, we constantly have patches. And then now it's just every week something else.
Well, and it's so bad. You remember when Infinite launched, and there was 343's first shot at like a real live service game, and it was so bad that they literally left the game broken over winter break and said, "Hey guys, we got to spend time with our families," and they couldn't even. they literally let go of the game for a week or whatever, or maybe it was 2 weeks. I don't know. And they just said, "Guys, we have families too. We got to celebrate Christmas. We're going to pick back up. We hear everything." But it's like, that's how bad it was that they left the game broken, because live service is such a monster that they weren't prepared for. And the game was just left broken for a couple weeks, or it was a few playlists and different things. It wasn't like totally broken, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
it was just Big Team Battle, David. It was just Big Team Battle. It didn't work.
But that's like unheard. Like in terms of Halo things, it's just crazy. Like a whole.
I get it. I was one of those people that thought that the game was, because it launched surprise out of nowhere, that I was like, oh, this is a preview.
Right.
We're gonna get the real game on the original launch date that was expected. When the campaign comes out, the real game. No. But I don't know. It's I had something, and I just like lost my train of thought about that sort of thing.
Well, let's switch gears. If it comes back, we can. But the last thing we wanted to touch on is the future of hardware. And in the FTC documents that we covered a lot of earlier in the year and last year, there was talks of a diskless console, and then we saw leaks about an Xbox diskless console. And for years, Xbox has been releasing diskless consoles, and consoles, PlayStation, Xbox are some of the last actual like computers that even have disk drives in them. And so I thought it'd be good if we maybe touched on that and how we feel about this next generation leap that's going to be happening in the next few years. Are we going to see the final nail in the coffin for physical releases? I mean, Walmart, Best Buy, we've talked about all these places removing. It breaks my heart going to any store and just seeing gift cards with the games on them, $69.99, $70, whatever, and it's just a gift card and a digital code you plug in. I'll start.
Yes.
It's hard for me to buy a piece of cardboard for $70 and then download something digital that I can't tangibly hold. And I understand that most of the games I even buy physically are just a license to download the thing, and I still don't really have it on the disc. And if I didn't have the internet, I still couldn't play it. I, for one, am okay with a digital future, but I want a physical option. That's just me. I want to be playing Halo on a desert island. And if I can't play it on a desert island, I don't want to spend my money on it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm okay with the digital option if there's no DRM attached. If I can make a physical copy of something.
What's a DRM for those listening?
Digital rights management. So that's the whole licensing bit, right? So, like, if I download something on my PC, it's not locked to my PC. I can move it to my other PC, and it's just fine. I don't have to re-download it where I get a new license with a hash that matches up. No, it's just the files get moved over.
Right, because you own them.
I can play it. I own them. I own that thing. And because, a disc is no different from a thumb drive or anything else, right? So I'm okay with a digital future if there's no DRM. Because then I can make an archival copy. I can hold on to it. I have hard drives on hard drives all over the place in my apartment. I'm a lunatic, but whatever. It's
yeah.
But it's and that's the thing. Like, if I don't think a license key on a disc is what it should be, right? That's not what it should be. You should at least get like the actual game on the disc that you're buying. And it says, they say that Microsoft just following suit with what consumers want, and this is what they apparently want. The frog has been boiled. We have accepted and want a digital future, this convenience factor, right? But as what I'm fearful of is exactly what's happening with the streaming world, where there's growing backlash and resentment towards streaming services because of the exclusives, because of timed things, because of things getting removed, because of licenses expiring, because of constant fracturing, because every company wants their piece of the pie, but the pie is only so big, so it's getting sliced and sliced and sliced. And we're getting this growing amount of backlash. I'm seeing more and more articles of people saying that they're going back to DVD. And so I can see that potentially happening to gaming. It just becomes a little bit harder when you have shit like live service. You can't do that bit where you don't have the internet access to it anymore, if that makes any sense. So, I don't remember exactly where I was going with that, but yeah, like we were talking about before that, and John, you said like this is exactly what Microsoft wanted with the Xbox One 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk
Yeah,
about that, John.
one of the big kind of pitches or things they talked about was the Xbox One being always online. That was kind of their DRM. It was always online, and
Every
the
time.
time, at the time, the gaming community like freaked out, and Microsoft backpedaled. There was the jokes from Sony like, if you want to share a PlayStation 4 game with a friend, here's how you do it. And they just handed the game to his buddy, and like there was this big joke. And Microsoft, like, they caught like just a ton of flack for it. And now, fast forward 10 years later, like, we're there. You always have to be online to play Series X and Series S games. Whether it's Game Pass, you install the games, but if you're not online, you can't play them. The physical media for like Series X games is like an absolute joke. Most of the times, the disc just has the license on it, and the discs they're even using just the 50 gigabyte Blu-rays. Like, no Series X games are 50 gigabytes, so you already know right there you're not getting a full game on any Series X disc that you're buying. So all it is like, they say like they're not moving towards an all digital future, but like it's happening. Like what David was saying, they're disappearing from stores. So why is that? Because they're not making the games on physical formats. So
we're getting like a chicken and egg situation of sorts,
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, people want a digital future, so we remove it from stores, physical copies from stores. Well, people buy games digitally because they can't get physical copies anymore. It's,
right,
a little bit like that.
And to your point, John, we touched on this before we started recording, but you're right. When that like Xbox One era was starting, Microsoft got torched for trying to bring an all digital future too quickly, and it's almost like they took the wheel of the pirate ship and just yanked it down and tried to turn, and the whole market, gamers, we were not ready for that, and we were like, no, we don't want that, we don't want that, even though I think they knew that's where things were going and they're going to take us. So instead, like, hold on, let's go back. Let's just slowly start turning the pirate wheel. Let's just slowly start turning it and get them warm. Like you said, Henry, get them warmed up to the idea. And then, I downloaded Minecraft digitally and I played that for a while. And then I downloaded this other game. And then they introduced Game Pass. And it's like, oh, cool. You can, test out all these games. I know I don't own them, but there's a lot of cool games on here I'd like to try out. Let me just try out Game Pass and see how I like it. And then before we knew it, without saying a word, all the discs in stores were just licenses and they weren't actually any games. And you're like, I remember when I found out that the games that I was buying at the store for my Xbox weren't the games on the disc. And I was like, wait, what? I think, Henry, you told me like a couple years ago, and I don't know what game I bought, but I like went to install it and it was like 50 gig disc, and I downloaded like 112 gigs of game or something, and I was like, wait, what? And then Henry was like, dude, the game's not on the disc. And I'm like, what? I was like, no.
It used to be you could install the game to your hard drive to like decrease load times and all that, but the whole game was like on the disc, and that is completely gone away.
I remember the first game where there was a physical copy and it was just a piece of paper inside the disc tray. It was Destiny, that I remember happening. It was the PC version of like Destiny 2. And I was like, what the hell's even the point? What's the point? of buying this
Yeah.
physical copy. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's so crazy.
yeah. And I don't know, man. It is a frog being boiled situation where we don't realize what was happening till it's taken away from us, right? Like streaming sounded so nice until it got fractured and what we wanted to watch was pulled, and then also the
Yeah.
Blu-ray copy's out of print now, so you have no way of watching this movie. And now the media is just being controlled because you can't watch this thing legally anywhere.
Yeah.
Or stuff's being edited,
Yeah,
scenes being removed, all that kind of stuff.
yep.
That kind of
So
stuff
you
drives
watch the
me
official version.
crazy. Like I want to watch like what originally released in theaters. You know, I don't want some updated whatever, you know.
I don't mind updated versions if you tell me. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why if you look at my Plex server that you guys have access to, I'll have like 4 copies of some movies, and it'll say what version it is on there. I have like 5 versions of Blade Runner.
Well, yeah, not so much that, but like
I know what you're talking about,
particularly-
like the edits
I
of
think
like things that
Disney's
for one
probably
reason
like
or
the
another.
most guilty of it,
Yeah.
but or just like entire episodes not being included in like a TV series.
Like
that-
South Park
that
has 5
does.
episodes that you can't watch anymore unless you already have an old copy of the DVD.
Stuff like that drives me crazy. But
Interesting times. If the next gen console is discless, how will you guys feel about it? Will you still be inclined to purchase? What will be the linchpin to get you to buy the next gen console?
I mean, so I don't have a Series X. I have a Series S. As because I stopped seeing a point in physical copies. I guess me not buying physical copies just kind of helped lead to that.
Yeah,
But
you cranked
but
the
if
heat
they don't
up on
give
the
us
water.
another option,
Exactly.
But, yeah, so
you
here's
don't
the other
have
thing,
another
right?
option.
So multiple things. So I bought a Series S because I couldn't get an X, and I said, okay, fine, screw it. I was waiting to find an X, and they weren't available, but S's were, and I was holding out because I wanted to like stick to my guns, right? But what also ended up happening was, I couldn't find any games anyway. Like they just weren't there.
Right.
So
right. And to your point, John, Microsoft said that they will follow what consumers are doing. But when consumers only have the option to buy a disc with a license on it that's not the real game or digitally download it, all consumers can do is consume the type of video game media that you allow us to. We don't have other options, so you're following what the consumer's doing. Well, yeah, that's like saying like a kid is gonna like, you know, we're gonna feed our child what we feed them. It doesn't make any sense. Like this is the only option that you have.
To me, it's like saying, hey guys, if you buy physical copies, we will keep making consoles that can read physical copies. By the way, all the stores have gotten rid of physical copies, so
right.
Wait, looks like all the consumers are downloading their games instead of buying physical copies that don't exist.
Right.
So
it'll be. I have kind of a hot take for what will get me to buy the next gen console. I think what would make me like pre-order a next gen console was obviously if I could see like a graphical upgrade, but I think I want the next gen console to have absolutely 0 backwards compatibility.
Ooh,
I want
hot take.
my Series S to play all of those games, and it plays all, it plays all the 360, Xbox One, original. Like that can be, it's a small enough console that can just be my Xbox of days past console. But what really annoyed me about the series generation is like we still don't have like the big Series X console that like blows away anything else.
This
And I
entire
think part of
generation
it
just
is,
feels like a little bit of a ramp up, not a whole lot.
yeah, I feel like because almost everything is playable on Xbox One or needs to be playable on like a lesser Series S. Like I want only one console with zero backwards compatibility. So like if you're developing a game, you're developing it just for that console. Just for that console. Like it doesn't make any money sense, obviously, but from just like a gamer's perspective, like I want you guys to just focus on making the most amazing new games on the latest hardware. We've got plenty to play on the old stuff. Like leave it alone. Like let's go to the future already.
That's a hot take. I like that.
I half agree with John. Because I'm in a similar boat, right? So for like example, I held on, out of all of us in like our core group of people that play video games together, I was one of the last people to upgrade my Xbox because everything I played ran fine on my Xbox One S. And I just got sick of Halo Infinite, me loading in last for everything. So because Halo Infinite ran like shit on the Xbox One, I said, all right, fine. Screw it. I'll buy an Xbox Series S because I wanted an X, but I couldn't find one. So that's why I finally bit the bullet to get an S because Halo ran like crap on the Xbox One. So to me, it's not something that's exclusive for the next console. It just has to be something that even if they were to put it on the old console, it probably shouldn't have been. You know?
Yeah.
Something where it's like, to play this, you probably should have this console, this newer console. That's what it would take for me. So it's similar to John, but just a step down. It's like, yeah, theoretically you could play it on your Series S or X, but you probably shouldn't. So that's what it would take for me.
Wow. Yeah, I just want to be blown away by a game. I think if whatever the game is, if there's a game that's exclusive to that console and it blows me away, if it's a Gears X, whatever, I don't care. But if it's incredible and it like reviews well and there's a buzz about it and people are saying it's actually good and it's worth it, like I'll go get it. Like that's it. But right now, like even on my Series X, I love my Halo Series X. It's great for playing all kinds of games that aren't Series X. So it is what it is. It'll be interesting to see. Also, future Xbox handheld, we touched on that a little bit. I'd be very interested in that. But we're out of time. So maybe later down the line, any closing thoughts before we beg people to rate, comment, and subscribe to the podcast?
Yeah, I would say that what your point you just made, that, and what me and John both said, just goes back to what I said earlier about it's all about games actually, and not about hardware.
Yeah,
people follow the games. That's all. That's been tried and true, proven year after year.
Yeah, and along with that, I just hope that in the next year, 2025, that all of these insane acquisitions that Microsoft has made will finally kind of hit their stride and start putting out great games. So I'm excited to see what Activision Blizzard will be doing, and all of the ZeniMax studios, all that stuff. There's so much now under the Microsoft umbrella that they got a lot of games in their future. That's for sure. They're not leaving the gaming industry anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you guys so much. If you listened this far, appreciate you taking the time. Leave some comments about Xbox things that you think we should get into, maybe a topic or something. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to give this episode a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, because that helps, push it out to more people. And last but not least, if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're not, if you could do us a mad favor and go to Spotify and give the For the Win Xbox podcast a 5-star rating, that helps people find us. So when they type in video game podcast or Xbox podcast into Spotify, ours will go higher up on the list. So with that being said, appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the rebrand, not rebrand, but the new direction we're going in. If you're an Xbox player, this will be the Xbox podcast for you. We're going to get into the nitty gritty and everything happening in Xbox. And it's not going to be the, we're not IGN. Okay. Screw IGN. We're not the stuffy suits and executives being PC about everything. We're going to tell you the hard hitting truth and facts about how we feel about Xbox. So that's it. That's the pod. GG's everybody.
GG's.